Mira had never imagined that her life would change because of a small old house in the mountains. She grew up in the busy city, surrounded by noise, traffic, and tall buildings. Her grandmother, however, had lived far away, in a quiet, lonely place where the air was clean and the sky was clear every night. Mira remembered visiting her grandmother when she was a child. The house had smelled of wood, herbs, and something sweet she could not name. It was small but warm, and her grandmother always had a story to tell. When Mira received the letter, she did not expect much. Her grandmother had lived modestly, never speaking of riches or treasures. Mira thought the inheritance would be a few old items, perhaps some books or photographs. The letter was short, written in careful handwriting. It simply said, "Mira, my mountain house is yours. Take care of it. Take care of yourself." Mira felt a strange mix of sadness and curiosity. Her grandmother had passed away quietly, without any fanfare, leaving the house to her. She had not even known she was ill. Now, the responsibility of the house was hers, and she felt a sudden weight on her shoulders. Still, the idea of visiting the mountains excited her. For the first time in years, she would leave the city behind. The journey was long. Mira packed lightly, taking only a backpack, her grandmother's letter, and a small suitcase. The road to the mountain village was winding and steep. Cars rattled along the narrow paths, and the trees grew taller and closer together as she climbed. The air changed with every mile. It became cooler, fresher, and smelled of pine and earth. Mira looked out of the car window, noticing the distant peaks, mist hovering over valleys, and birds flying freely. She felt a strange sense of peace she had never known in the city. When she finally reached the village, she realized it was smaller than she remembered. Only a few houses were scattered along the hillside. People walked slowly, greeting each other with gentle nods. Mira carried her bags, searching for her grandmother's house. She found it at the edge of the village, almost hidden behind tall trees. The house was small, with stone walls, a wooden roof, and a chimney that had not smoked for a long time. The garden was overgrown, but she could see the flowers her grandmother had loved. Mira took a deep breath before opening the door. It creaked as she pushed it, revealing the familiar smell of her childhood. Dust covered the furniture, and cobwebs hung in corners, but everything was in its place. Sunlight streamed through the windows, catching the motes of dust in the air. Mira walked slowly, touching the wooden tables and chairs. She remembered sitting on this chair as a child, listening to her grandmother tell stories about the mountains, the stars, and distant lands. She explored the house carefully. In the living room, there were old photographs of her grandmother and people Mira did not recognize. On the shelves, there were books about plants, stars, and machines that looked strange and complicated. Mira felt a chill of excitement. Her grandmother had always been curious, always learning, but Mira never realized how much she had done. There was more to this house than Mira had thought. Mira moved to the kitchen. The sink was rusty, the stove old, and the cupboards filled with jars of dried herbs. She opened one and smelled it. It reminded her of afternoons spent baking with her grandmother, stirring mixtures, and listening to stories. There was a small notebook lying on the counter with her grandmother's handwriting. Mira picked it up and began to read. The pages were filled with notes, sketches, and strange symbols. Some pages had numbers and letters that did not make sense to her. She frowned, trying to understand. Her grandmother had always been smart, but this seemed unusual. The attic called to her next. Mira climbed the narrow wooden stairs slowly, the steps creaking under her weight. The attic was dark, filled with boxes, old furniture, and forgotten items. Dust floated in the air as she moved. She found old clothes, photographs, and toys she remembered from her childhood. At the back of the attic, she noticed a small door hidden behind a bookshelf. Her heart raced. She had never seen that door before. She pushed the bookshelf aside and opened the door. Behind it was a small room, almost like a secret space. Inside, Mira found something she could not believe. There was a metal device, shining faintly in the dim light. It was smooth, with buttons, levers, and a small screen that blinked softly. She had never seen anything like it. On a table beside it were papers, diagrams, and journals. Mira realized her grandmother had been working on something extraordinary, something Mira had never imagined. She picked up one of the journals. It was filled with her grandmother's neat handwriting. Mira read a passage. "This device will help humanity understand energy beyond what we know. It is dangerous, but necessary. Myra, if you are reading this, the time has come for you to learn and to protect what we have built." Trembled. Her grandmother had trusted her with something incredible. She felt a mix of fear and excitement. Mira spent the rest of the day exploring the hidden room. She examined the device carefully. The buttons and levers were complex, but she felt drawn to it. She remembered how her grandmother had always encouraged curiosity and learning. Maybe this was her way of continuing that legacy. Mira wanted to understand the device, but she knew it would take time, patience, courage. As the evening came, Mira lit a small lamp. Shadows danced on the walls, and the mountains outside glowed with the last light of the sun. She sat at the table, reading the journals, making notes, and imagining the possibilities. Her grandmother had left her a great responsibility. Mira knew this was more than just a house. It was a gateway to knowledge, discovery, and perhaps something much bigger. The night grew quiet. Outside, she could hear the wind rustling through the trees, the distant call of an owl, and the soft sound of a stream nearby. Myra felt alone, but not lonely. She felt connected to her grandmother and to the house itself. She realized that her grandmother had prepared her for something important, something that would change her life forever. Mira decided she would stay. She would clean the house, organize the notes, and begin learning about the device. She did not know what she would find, but she was ready. The mountains, the house, and her grandmother's legacy called to her. This was the beginning of a journey she could never have imagined. A journey that would challenge her, teach her, and perhaps change the future of humanity. She looked out of the window at the stars beginning to appear in the sky. For the first time, she felt a sense of purpose. She whispered softly to herself, "I will understand. I will continue what you started, grandmother." The house was quiet, the mountains peaceful, but Mira felt the energy of possibility in the air. Something extraordinary had begun, and she was ready to face it that night. Mira slept on the old wooden bed, the journals stacked on the table beside her. Dreams of stars, mountains, and strange glowing devices filled her mind. She dreamed of the future, of discovery, and of the unknown. She knew that when she woke up, her life would not be the same. She would begin a path her grandmother had paved, a path of curiosity, courage, and change. The mountain house, once quiet and forgotten, was now alive with secrets waiting to be revealed. Mira, the young woman who had inherited nothing but dust and memories, was about to inherit a responsibility far greater than she could imagine. She did not yet know what she would uncover, what she would learn, or how it would change her. But she was ready to begin. The journey had started. The mountain house was hers, and everything inside it was a key to something extraordinary. Mira took a deep breath, feeling the air of the mountains fill her lungs, and smiled. This was the start of her adventure. The morning sunlight spilled through the old windows of the mountain house, casting long golden beams across the wooden floor. Mira woke with a sense of determination. Last night's dreams of glowing stars and strange machines still lingered in her mind. She could not stop thinking about the hidden room and the mysterious device her grandmother had left behind. Today she decided she would try to understand it. Mira ate a simple breakfast of bread and tea, sitting at the small kitchen table. Outside, the mountains shimmered in the sunlight. Birds sang in the trees, and a gentle wind whispered through the garden. It was peaceful, almost magical. Yet Mira felt a sense of urgency. Her grandmother's journals had hinted at something important, and she could not ignore it. She gathered her courage and returned to the attic. Carefully moving the bookshelf aside to reveal the secret room, the device sat on the table, its metallic surface glinting. Mira studied it closely. It was unlike anything she had ever seen. Small lights blinked along its edges, and a faint hum vibrated through the air. There were buttons, levers, and symbols etched into the metal. Some symbols resembled letters, others shapes she did not recognize. Her grandmother's journal lay beside it, open to a page titled Energy and Communication. Myra began to read. The journal explained that the device could manipulate energy in ways that could create projections and signals. Her grandmother had been working on it for years, testing small experiments that seemed harmless, but were actually very advanced. Mira's eyes widened as she read. The device could interact with energy fields, map distant locations, and even send signals into space. Her grandmother had been experimenting with knowledge far beyond what people in the village or city could understand. For hours, Mira studied the diagrams and notes. She tried to make sense of the symbols, matching them to the buttons on the device. She pressed a few keys carefully, hoping to see some response. At first, nothing happened. The hum remained steady, the lights flickered faintly, and the machine seemed to watch her, waiting. Mira felt a thrill. She was on the edge of something extraordinary, something her grandmother had trusted her to handle. Then, a small panel slid open on the side of the device. A soft blue light appeared, forming a tiny holographic map above the table. Mira gasped. The map showed stars, planets, and strange paths connecting them. She had never imagined anything like it. Lines of energy seemed to flow between the stars, glowing faintly. Her grandmother had created a map of space, something no one in her world had ever seen. Mira felt her heartbeat quicken. She reached out to touch the map. As her fingers hovered over the hologram, a wave of energy pulsed through the device. The map expanded, revealing planets, moons, and distant galaxies. Mira realized that this was more than a map. It was a tool for understanding the universe. The lines connecting the stars were not random. They seemed to show paths, ways to travel or communicate. Mira's mind raced with possibilities. Mira spent the entire day experimenting with the device. She discovered that pressing certain combinations of buttons caused the map to rotate, zoom in on specific stars, or highlight hidden pathways. She began to see patterns. Some stars were marked with symbols that matched those in her grandmother's journals. Mira understood that her grandmother had left a guide, a way to navigate the device safely. It was complex, but with patience, she could learn. As the afternoon light faded, Mira felt a sense of accomplishment. She had learned more about the device in one day than she could have imagined. Yet she also felt a growing responsibility. The journals had warned that the device could attract attention. It was not meant to be used lightly. Mira understood that she had to be careful. She had inherited more than a house. She had inherited knowledge, power, and responsibility. Determined to continue, Mira set up a small workspace in the attic. She cleared old boxes and arranged the journals, notes, and tools around the table. She created a schedule for herself, dedicating hours to studying, experimenting, and recording her observations. Every night, she would return to the device, learning more about its capabilities. The process was slow, but Mira was patient. She remembered her grandmother's words about persistence and curiosity. On the second day, Mira noticed something unusual. The device began to emit a faint pulse, a soft vibration that seemed to resonate with the mountains around the house. She checked the settings and saw nothing that could explain it. Then she realized that the pulse matched the rhythm of a symbol she had seen in the journals. It was a signal, a message waiting to be decoded. Mira felt a mixture of excitement and fear. Her grandmother had left a challenge, a puzzle that only Mira could solve. She worked for hours, writing down the pattern of the pulses, comparing them to the star map and the symbols. Slowly, she began to understand. The pulses were a form of communication, a language of energy. Her grandmother had found a way to send messages through the device, perhaps even to other beings far away. Mira's mind filled with questions. Who had her grandmother intended to communicate with? And why that night? Mira could hardly sleep. She kept thinking about the possibilities. The device could be used to explore space, to understand energy, and to communicate across the stars. It was incredible, but it also felt overwhelming. Mira knew she had to be careful. The journals had warned that misuse of the device could be dangerous. Yet she also felt a sense of purpose. Her grandmother had believed in her. She had left this knowledge for a reason, trusting Mira to continue the work. The next morning, Mira returned to the secret room with renewed determination. She decided to test the device further, using a small energy sample she had created with materials in the attic. Following her grandmother's instructions carefully, she placed the sample in the designated spot and activated the device. The air hummed with energy, and the holographic map glowed brighter. Lines of light extended from the device into the room, wrapping around her carefully. Myra watched in awe as a miniature projection of a distant planet appeared above the table. She could see mountains, rivers, and forests in tiny detail. Myra realized that her grandmother had found a way to bring the universe closer. The device was a bridge, a way to observe, understand, and perhaps even protect. She felt a deep respect for her grandmother. She had been more than a simple woman living in the mountains. She had been a pioneer, a thinker, and a protector. Myra felt a surge of pride. She had inherited not only the house, but also her grandmother's legacy of courage and knowledge. Over the next few days, Myra continued to experiment. She discovered that she could adjust the device to highlight certain planets, track movement, and even predict changes in energy fields. The journals provided guidance, but Myra had to trust her own intuition. She learned to recognize the subtle signs in the hum, the glow of the lights, and the behavior of the holographic projections. Each small success gave her confidence. She was beginning to feel that she could handle the responsibility her grandmother had left her. One afternoon, Myra noticed a strange pattern in the holographic map. A faint line appeared, leading from one of the distant stars toward Earth. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but Myra's careful observation caught it. She studied it for hours, trying to understand its meaning. Finally, she realized that it was a signal, perhaps from someone or something, observing the planet. Her heart raced. Her grandmother had warned about attention from others. Now Myra could see it with her own eyes. Myra felt a mixture of fear and excitement. The universe was larger than she had ever imagined. She had always thought of herself as ordinary, but now she realized that she had a role to play in something extraordinary. The mountains around her seemed smaller in comparison to the vastness of space revealed by the device. Yet she felt connected, as if her grandmother had given her the tools to bridge the gap between Earth and the stars. That evening, Myra sat by the window, looking at the mountains and the sky. The first stars appeared, twinkling softly. She thought about the signal, the device, and the possibilities. She whispered softly to herself, "I will learn. I will understand. I will do what you started, grandmother." The house felt alive, as if it recognized her determination. The mountains seemed to echo her promise, carrying it into the night. Myra realized that her journey was only beginning. The device had revealed the first glimpse of something much larger than herself. She was ready to follow the path her grandmother had left. She knew it would be challenging, but she felt prepared. Every question she answered brought new discoveries, and every discovery brought new questions. The adventure had begun, and Myra was ready to embrace it fully as Myra prepared for sleep. She looked once more at the device. The faint glow of the holographic map filled the room, casting shadows that danced along the walls. She felt a deep sense of connection to her grandmother and to the universe beyond. For the first time, she understood that the small mountain house was not just a home. It was a gateway, a place where curiosity, courage, and discovery would guide her toward an extraordinary future. Myra closed her eyes. Feeling the hum of the device and the heartbeat of the mountains around her, she was no longer just a visitor in her grandmother's house. She was the guardian of knowledge, the keeper of secrets, and the explorer of possibilities. Myra awoke to the soft sound of birds singing in the mountains. The morning air was crisp and cool, and sunlight filtered through the trees, casting golden patterns on the wooden floor. Her mind was restless with thoughts of the previous day. The device, the holographic map, and the faint signal she had noticed weighed heavily on her imagination. She knew that today would not be a day for rest. It was a day for discovery. She ate a simple breakfast, her hands shaking slightly with anticipation. The journals lay on the table, open 2 pages filled with symbols and notes. Myra traced her fingers over the diagrams, memorizing shapes, lines, and instructions. Her grandmother had left careful directions, but some parts were incomplete. almost like puzzles meant to be solved by Mira herself. She felt both excitement and a growing sense of responsibility. The device was more than a machine. It was a tool that could change everything if used wisely. Mira returned to the secret room in the attic. The device sat on the table, humming softly, as if it had sensed her presence. The holographic star map flickered to life when she touched it, casting a soft glow across the walls. Mira leaned closer, studying the faint line she had seen yesterday. It led from a distant star system toward Earth. She realized that it was a signal, not random, but deliberate. Someone or something was trying to communicate with her planet. Her heart raced with a mixture of fear and curiosity. She opened her grandmother's journal to the section labeled Signals and Energy Patterns, the pages explained, that certain energy frequencies could carry messages across vast distances. Myra compared the symbols to the pattern of pulses she had recorded from the device. Slowly, she began to decipher the sequence. Each pulse corresponded to a symbol on the star map, forming a message. Mira's hands trembled as she wrote down the translation. The message was simple yet profound. We are observing. We do not mean harm. Proceed with caution. Mira leaned back in her chair, trying to absorb the meaning. Her grandmother had warned her that attention from others was possible, but seeing it confirmed on the device was different. She felt a mixture of fear and responsibility. The universe was larger than she had ever imagined, and now she knew that humans were not alone. The message was peaceful, but it carried a warning. Mira understood that her actions could have consequences, and she needed to be careful with the device. Determined to learn more, Mira spent hours analyzing the signal. She discovered that the energy pulses could be adjusted, amplified, and sent back as a response. The journals provided instructions for communication, but the process was delicate. One wrong step could disrupt the signal or attract unwanted attention. Mira felt the weight of her grandmother's trust. She was no longer just exploring a house. She was carrying a responsibility that could affect not only herself, but the entire planet. By afternoon, Mira decided to attempt a controlled response. She followed the instructions carefully, adjusting the energy frequencies, pressing buttons in the exact order her grandmother had noted. The device hummed more strongly, and the holographic map expanded, showing more stars, more paths, and new symbols she had not seen before. Mira realized that the device was reacting to her actions almost as if it understood her intent. She took a deep breath and activated the response signal. The room was filled with a soft glow, and a faint vibration ran through the floor. Mira watched the map carefully. Slowly, the line of the signal returned, brighter this time, confirming that her message had been received. Her heart raced with excitement. The first step of communication had succeeded. Mira knew that her grandmother would have been proud, yet she also understood that this was only the beginning. The device was a bridge, and she was just learning to cross it. Over the next few days, Mira worked tirelessly. She experimented with different energy patterns, tested the limits of the device, and recorded every observation. Each success brought new discoveries. She could project small images of planets, track energy flows, and even predict changes in the signals. Mira realized that her grandmother had created not just a device, but a system for understanding the universe. The journals were guides, but Mira had to learn to trust her own instincts. One evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, Mira noticed a new pattern in the signal. It was faint, almost hidden, but different from the previous message. She focused on it, decoding the sequence with care. The message seemed urgent. Observe and prepare. Caution is necessary. Myra felt a chill run through her body. The universe was watching, and now she knew that her grandmother had been preparing for this moment for years. The device was not just a tool for observation. It was a warning system. Mira realized that she needed to understand more about the potential dangers. She searched the journals for clues, reading about energy anomalies, cosmic signals, and patterns that could indicate nearby activity. Her grandmother had documented small experiments, noting changes in energy fields and unexpected reactions. Mira felt a mixture of awe and fear. She was standing at the edge of knowledge, learning secrets that humans had never known. Yet she also felt empowered. Her grandmother had trusted her to continue this work. Mira was ready. The challenge grew as Mira tried to strengthen the device's capabilities. She experimented with larger energy samples, carefully following the instructions in the journals. The room hummed with energy, and the holographic map expanded further, revealing distant galaxies and complex networks of energy pathways. Mira watched in amazement. The universe seemed alive, full of movement, patterns, and signals waiting to be understood. She realized that her grandmother had been a pioneer, a thinker who had seen possibilities far beyond ordinary imagination. As the days passed, Mira became more confident. She learned to recognize subtle signs in the device's behavior, adjusting the settings to improve accuracy. She could track signals more precisely, project larger images, and even detect changes in energy flows. The challenge was immense, but Mira's determination never wavered. She remembered her grandmother's words about persistence, courage, and curiosity. Every obstacle was an opportunity to learn. Every discovery brought her closer to understanding the universe. One night, Mira sat by the window looking at the stars. The mountains were dark and quiet, but the sky was alive with twinkling lights. She thought about the signals, the messages, and the possibilities. The universe was vast, and humanity was only a small part of it. Yet, Mira felt a sense of connection. Her grandmother had prepared her not just to inherit a house, but to inherit knowledge, responsibility, and the chance to explore something extraordinary. Suddenly, the device pulsed more strongly than before. Mira rushed to the attic, her heart pounding. The holographic map displayed a new pattern, a series of energy lines converging on a single point in space. Mira recognized the symbol from the journals. It was a marker of observation, a sign that someone or something was watching carefully. She realized that her grandmother had anticipated this moment. The device was not only a tool for communication, but also a protective measure. Mira had to learn to use it wisely. For hours, Mira studied the pattern, decoding its meaning. She discovered that the convergence indicated a potential approach, something moving along the energy pathways. It was not a threat yet, but it was a reminder that her actions could have consequences. Mira felt a surge of responsibility. She understood that she was part of something much larger than herself, something that required careful thought, patience, and courage. The next morning, Mira began preparations. She organized the journals, refined her notes, and adjusted the device's settings. She created a system for monitoring the energy pathways, tracking changes, and responding to signals quickly. Mira knew that she had to be ready for anything. The challenge was greater than she had imagined, but she felt ready. Her grandmother's legacy was guiding her, and Mira was determined to honor it. As she worked, Mira felt a sense of purpose growing within her. The mountains, once quiet and lonely, now felt alive with energy. The house, the device, and the journals had revealed a world beyond imagination. Mira was learning not only about the universe, but also about herself. She discovered courage, intelligence, and perseverance she had never known she possessed. The challenge was immense, but so was the reward. That night, Mira sat by the device. Watching the holographic map glow softly, the energy pulses seemed to respond to her presence, as if acknowledging her determination. She whispered to herself, "I will be careful. I will learn. I will continue what you started." Grandmother. The mountains outside were silent. The stars twinkled brightly. And Mira felt a deep connection to the universe. The challenge had only just begun, but Mira was ready. She knew that the journey would be difficult, filled with unknowns and potential dangers. Yet she also knew that she had the knowledge, courage, and determination to face it. Her grandmother's guidance, the device, and her own intuition were all part of a path that would lead her to understanding, discovery, and something extraordinary. As Mira prepared for sleep, she felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. She had taken the first steps in deciphering the signals and understanding the device. She had faced the challenge with patience and courage, learning lessons that would guide her in the days to come. The morning sunlight spilled into the mountain house, warming the wooden floors and the stone walls. Mira awoke feeling more determined than ever. The signals she had observed and deciphered from the device filled her mind with questions, curiosity, and excitement. She knew the journey ahead was larger than anything she had imagined, and she felt ready to take the next step. Today, she decided, she would explore the basement she had noticed but never entered. The basement had always seemed ordinary, storage space with shelves and boxes. Myra descended the stairs cautiously, her flashlight cutting through the dimness. The air smelled of earth, wood, and a faint metallic temp she did not recognize. The basement walls were lined with shelves, jars, and old tools. Yet something felt unusual, a quiet hum in the air, almost like the house itself was alive. Myra walked slowly, her heart beating with anticipation. At the far end of the basement, Myra noticed a loose panel on the floor. Her curiosity piqued. She knelt and pried it open carefully, revealing a narrow staircase descending further into darkness. The hum grew stronger as she stepped down, echoing off the stone walls. She reached the bottom and found a large hidden room, unlike anything she had expected. The space was filled with strange equipment, glowing panels, and what appeared to be a prototype starship. Myra froze, staring at the sleek metallic shape. Her grandmother had been working on something incredible, something beyond imagination. Myra approached the starship carefully. It was small but complex, filled with controls, screens, and energy conduits running along its frame. The journals in the room explained that it was a prototype, designed for observation and exploration. It was not yet capable of human travel, but it could be used to send drones, probes, or small energy devices into orbit. Myra's mind raced. Her grandmother had prepared not just for communication, but for active exploration. The device, the signals, now the starship prototype, were all pieces of a larger plan. Myra spent hours studying the starship. She examined the controls, the energy conduits, and the connection points for the device she had discovered in the attic. Slowly, she realized that the two systems were linked. The device controlled energy flows, while the starship could project energy, transmit signals, and interact with the universe beyond Earth. Her grandmother had created a complete system for observation, exploration, and protection. Myra felt a deep sense of respect. She was standing in the midst of her grandmother's vision, a vision that had been years in the making. Determined to test the starship prototype, Myra began with small experiments. She connected the device to the ship's control panel, carefully following instructions from the journals. The starship hummed to life, panels glowing softly, lights flickering in patterns she had never seen. Myra felt a thrill of excitement. Her grandmother had trusted her to understand and activate this system. And now, the moment had come. The first experiment was simple. Myra powered a small drone, sending it a few meters above the floor. The drone lifted smoothly, responding to the device's commands. Myra's heart leapt with joy. The prototype worked. She adjusted the energy flows, tested the navigation system, and watched the drone move with precision. Hours passed in a blur of concentration and excitement. Myra was learning the controls, understanding the energy patterns, and realizing the full potential of the system. As the sun set, Myra noticed something unusual on the holographic map. The faint signal she had observed before had changed. A new pulse appeared, stronger and more deliberate. Myra adjusted the device, analyzing the energy pattern. The message was clear: observation continues. Proceed with caution and understanding. Myra felt a shiver run through her. The universe was responding to her actions. Her grandmother had prepared her for this moment. Now she was part of something extraordinary. Myra decided to test a larger experiment. She activated a projection system on the starship prototype, sending a small probe into the air above the hidden room. The probe carried sensors and a miniature transmitter. As it hovered, the device mapped the surrounding energy fields, projecting them onto the holographic map. Myra watched in awe as the mountain house, the valley, and even the distant stars appeared in glowing lines of energy. It was like seeing the universe in miniature, a connected web of forces and patterns. Over the next few days, Myra practiced controlling the starship prototype and the connected device. She tested navigation, energy projection, and signal transmission. She discovered that she could highlight specific areas on the holographic map, track energy flows, and even detect faint changes in the surrounding environment. The process was challenging, requiring patience, focus, and careful observation. Yet Myra felt exhilarated. She was learning to operate a system that could extend humanity's understanding beyond Earth itself. One evening, Myra sat on the floor beside the prototype, taking notes and analyzing data. She noticed a subtle shift in the energy pathways on the holographic map. A faint line appeared, moving from the prototype toward the upper atmosphere. Myra realized that her experiments were being observed. The universe was responding, watching her actions and perhaps testing her readiness. She felt a mixture of fear and excitement. Her grandmother had warned that attention could come. Now Myra could see it with her own eyes. Determined to continue, Myra devised a controlled test. She activated the Starship prototype to send a small energy signal into the upper atmosphere. The device responded smoothly, projecting the energy along the pathways on the map. Myra watched as the lines connected with distant points in space, revealing patterns she had never noticed before. The system was more powerful than she had imagined. It could observe, communicate, and interact with the universe. Myra realized the responsibility she carried. As night fell, Myra looked out of the hidden room's small window. The mountains were dark and quiet, but the sky was filled with countless stars. She thought about the signal, the prototype, and the possibilities. Her grandmother had created a system for observation, communication, and exploration. Myra understood that she was not just learning, she was participating in something that could change humanity's understanding of the universe. She felt a sense of awe and purpose, unlike anything she had experienced before. The next morning, Myra decided to push the experiment further. She activated the Starship prototype to launch a small probe into the night sky. The probe carried sensors to observe energy patterns, cosmic signals, and faint transmissions from distant points. Myra controlled the launch carefully, guiding the probe along the energy pathways she had mapped. The prototype responded flawlessly, and the probe ascended, leaving a faint trail of glowing energy. Myra watched on the holographic map as it traveled, mapping unknown regions of space with incredible precision. Hours passed as Myra monitored the probe. She analyzed the data, noting changes in energy flows, responses from distant sources, and unexpected patterns. The universe seemed alive, reacting to her actions, and Myra felt connected to it in a way she had never imagined. The Starship prototype and the device were more than tools. They were extensions of her own curiosity, intelligence, and determination. She realized that her grandmother had trusted her not only to inherit knowledge, but to continue a mission of observation, understanding, and discovery. As evening approached, Myra noticed a new pattern forming on the holographic map. A cluster of energy lines converged near Earth, forming a shape she did not recognize. She studied it carefully, comparing it to the symbols in the journals. The pattern suggested that someone or something was moving closer, observing her work. Myra felt a mix of excitement and caution. The universe was responding, testing her readiness, and she knew she had to act wisely. Myra spent the next few hours adjusting the prototype, device to strengthen the energy fields around the mountain house. She created a protective network of signals, ensuring that the house and the prototype remained safe while continuing her observations. The holographic map glowed brightly, showing energy flows connecting the house, the probe, and the distant stars. Myra felt a deep sense of accomplishment. She was beginning to understand the full potential of her grandmother's creation. That night, Myra sat beside the prototype, watching the holographic map pulse with energy. She whispered softly to herself, "I will continue. I will learn. I will protect what you created, grandmother." The mountains were quiet, the stars twinkled above, and the hidden room seemed alive with possibility. Myra felt a connection to her grandmother, to the universe, and to the mission she had inherited. The awakening had begun. Myra was no longer just a visitor in her grandmother's house. She was the guardian of knowledge, the operator of a system that could observe and communicate across the stars, and the first human to fully understand the incredible technology hidden in the mountains. The journey ahead would be challenging, filled with unknowns, but Myra felt ready. She had the tools, the knowledge, the courage to face whatever lay ahead. As Myra prepared for sleep, she glanced at the glowing prototype. The energy hum filled the room and the holographic map shimmered softly. She knew that tomorrow would bring new discoveries, new challenges, and new opportunities. The universe was vast, mysterious, and alive, and Myra was ready to explore it. The first light of morning bathed the mountains in a soft gold. Myra stood by the window of the hidden room, watching the mist rise over the valleys. Her mind raced with the events of the past weeks. She had studied the device, decoded the signals, and activated the prototype starship. Each discovery had revealed new possibilities. But now she felt something deeper, a sense that the universe was not just observing, but waiting for her to act. Myra returned to the prototype starship and the connected device. The holographic map glowed softly, showing the energy pathways she had charted. The pulse signals she had received had strengthened, forming patterns that suggested awareness, intelligence, and curiosity. Myra realized that she was not alone in her work. The universe had responded, and now it was time for a more direct connection. She adjusted the controls, following the instructions her grandmother had left in the journals. Myra had spent days preparing for this moment, learning to manage energy flows, calibrate the device, and maintain a stable projection. She felt a sense of calm determination. Her grandmother's guidance had prepared her for this step. Myra was ready to take it. Activating the system, she projected a controlled energy signal into space. The signal traveled along the mapped pathways, reaching the farthest points Myra could see. She watched the holographic display carefully, noting each response, each subtle change in the energy flows. The device vibrated softly, pulsing with life, as if acknowledging her actions. Then a response came. A bright point appeared on the map, moving closer to Earth along the energy lines. Myra's heart raced. She adjusted the signal, maintaining stability while observing the approaching entity. Slowly, shapes formed in the projection an alien vessel, unlike anything she had ever imagined. Its surface shimmered with colors and patterns that seemed to shift and change. Yet despite its unfamiliar appearance, Myra sensed no threat. The energy signals conveyed curiosity and intelligence, a peaceful presence that sought understanding. For hours, Myra studied the interaction. She experimented with patterns of energy and light, sending signals that mirrored the pulses she had received. The alien vessel responded, creating patterns of its own in the holographic projection. Myra realized that this was communication, a dialogue without words, through energy, light, and intention. Her grandmother had prepared her for this moment. The journals, the device, and the starship prototype had all led to this first contact. Myra felt a surge of hope. Humanity had never made contact with beings beyond Earth, yet here she was, bridging the gap. She continued sending carefully constructed signals, learning from the responses. She discovered that the vessel's energy patterns were intelligent, capable of adjusting, learning, and interacting. Myra felt a deep connection, as if the universe itself was acknowledging her presence. Hours turned into days, as Myra perfected the communication. She noted every pattern, every pulse, and every response. The alien vessel remained curious, observing, testing, and responding to her signals. Myra realized that her grandmother had anticipated this encounter. The device, the starship, the energy signals were all part of a carefully designed plan to prepare humanity for peaceful contact. Myra understood that she was not only inheriting knowledge but fulfilling a mission her grandmother had dedicated her life to. One evening, Myra observed a new pattern emerging. The alien vessel projected an intricate series of energy lines that formed a map of nearby star systems. Myra recognized the structure as an invitation, a way to explore safely. She felt a mixture of excitement and responsibility. The path had been laid before her. The journals had guided her to this point, and now it was her turn to take the next step. Myra prepared the starship prototype for a controlled test. She programmed a small drone to follow the energy pathways toward the vessel, carrying sensors and a miniature transmitter. The device responded smoothly, projecting the drone into space along the mapped path. Mira watched as the drone moved, gathering data, interacting with the alien vessel's energy fields, and returning safely. The experiment was a success, confirming that her grandmother's systems worked precisely as intended. The realization struck Mira fully. Her grandmother had not only left her a house and a device, but a mission to advance humanity's understanding of the universe. Mira felt pride, responsibility, and gratitude. Her grandmother's quiet life in the mountains had hidden a vision so grand that Mira could scarcely believe it. Yet here it was, unfolding before her. The mountain house, once modest and forgotten, had become a center of innovation, discovery, and hope. Over the following days, Mira continued her work. She refined the communication, strengthened the energy pathways, and developed new methods for observing and interacting with the alien vessel. Each success built her confidence. She realized that her own creativity, intelligence, and determination were as important as the tools her grandmother had left behind. Mira felt herself growing, not only as a learner, but as a guardian of knowledge and a bridge between worlds. One night, Mira sat quietly, observing the projections. The alien vessel created a series of energy patterns that seemed to convey approval, recognition, and trust. Mira felt a warmth in her heart. She realized that the universe was responding not only to her actions, but to the integrity, patience, and courage she had shown. Her grandmother's plan had worked. Mira was ready to take humanity's first steps into a larger cosmic network. Mira decided to send a broader message, one that could reach distant systems while remaining safe. She carefully calibrated the device, creating a signal that combined energy pulses, light patterns, and controlled vibrations. The Starship prototype projected the signal into the atmosphere, where it traveled along the mapped pathways. Mira watched the holographic projection as the signal spread, connecting with distant points and creating new lines of energy. The universe was alive with possibility, and Mira felt at the center of it. Days later, the response came. Multiple points of light appeared on the map. Moving along the energy lines toward Earth, Mira realized that her actions had opened a channel of communication, not just with one vessel, but with others in nearby systems. The responses were peaceful, intelligent, and curious. Mira felt a profound sense of achievement. She had inherited not only knowledge, but the chance to advance humanity's place in the universe. Mira's mountain house had transformed. What was once a quiet, forgotten home was now a center of observation, discovery, and communication. She organized the journals, the device, and the Starship prototype, creating a workflow for continued exploration. Mira understood that her work would continue for years, perhaps a lifetime, but she felt ready. Her grandmother had prepared her. Now Mira was prepared to carry the mission forward. One evening, Mira sat outside the house, looking at the stars. The mountains were quiet, the night sky clear, and filled with countless points of light. She felt a sense of connection not only to her grandmother, but to the universe itself. The signals, the vessel, and the energy pathways were reminders that humanity was part of something much larger. Mira understood that knowledge, courage, and determination could bridge the gap between worlds. She thought about the future. The Starship prototype, the device, and the journals were only the beginning. Mira imagined sending more probes, expanding communication, and learning from the intelligent presence she had contacted. She realized that her grandmother's legacy was not just about discovery, but about hope, responsibility, and the courage to step into the unknown. Mira whispered softly to herself, "Thank you, grandmother. I will continue. I will protect this knowledge. I will help humanity reach further than ever before." The mountains, the stars, and the quiet hum of the device seemed to respond, filling her with a sense of purpose and confidence. Mira knew that she was ready for whatever lay ahead in the days that followed. Mira refined her communication methods, strengthened the protective energy networks, and sent carefully calibrated probes along the energy pathways. The alien vessels responded with increasing complexity, creating patterns that suggested intelligence, curiosity, and collaboration. Mira realized that her grandmother had prepared humanity for this moment, and now she was fulfilling that mission. The transformation was complete. Mira, once a young woman who had inherited a quiet, forgotten house, had become a pioneer. She was a guardian of knowledge, a communicator with distant intelligences, and an explorer of possibilities beyond Earth. Her grandmother's vision had unfolded, and Mira had brought it to life through determination, intelligence, and courage. As the sun rose over the mountains, Mira looked out at the valley below. The air was filled with energy, light, and potential. The mountain house, once humble and modest, had become a beacon of hope and discovery. Mira knew that the journey was only beginning, but she felt ready. She had inherited not only a house and a device, but a mission, a responsibility, and the knowledge that humanity could reach farther than ever imagined. The mountains were silent, the stars above endless, and the future filled with promise. Mira smiled, feeling a connection to her grandmother, to the universe, and to the path she had chosen. She understood that with courage, intelligence, and perseverance, humans could face the unknown and embrace the possibilities of the cosmos.